Previously on East Coast Tech. So here in America, it's tax season. I did mine a few weeks ago and I'm starting to get my refunds, so naturally the first thing I wanted to do was reevaluate my PC and see if I should make any upgrades. What's going on, guys? Andrew here with another episode of East Coast Tech. In the last episode, I went over the evolution of my PC rig, Chroma, now in version 2, as well as the upgrade path I chose to make it a more efficient rig for video editing. To recap on the parts, we have an Intel Core i7-7700K, an Asus Z270 ROG Maximus 9 Hero motherboard, and a late entry. That's right, folks, you're looking at 32GB of g.skill Trident Z RGB RAM. I made this purchase a few days ago, and I didn't want to miss out on showcasing them in my current upgrades. Now on to what we're going to talk about today. I'll be going over the improvements from Chroma 1.2, that's after the GTX 1070 upgrade, versus how Chroma 2.0, the current iteration, performs. We'll be using a mix of CPU-centric benchmarks, as well as some graphics benchmarks in order to get a really good lay of the land in terms of how these two processors compete against each other. And we'll be using Handbrake and Adobe Media Encoder to test video encoding on these two platforms. First up in our test is Cinebench. This is a synthetic CPU rendering benchmark which tests a CPU's ability to do so. The higher the score, the better. For Chroma 1.2, we got a score of 659 versus Chroma's 2.0 score of 883. Having 4 extra threads really makes a difference here, which can be seen from the 25% improvement over the upgraded system. Next we have 3D Mark's Firestrike. This is a more graphically intensive benchmark, but seeing as we use the same GTX 1070 card between the two systems, our results will only show the difference that changing the CPU would make in a real-world gaming scenario. Now for the results. Our 6600K build pulls in at a whopping 15,971, which is nothing to scoff at. We obviously see an improvement with our 7700K build, with its score coming in at 18,320. A difference of about 13%, which is much less of an upset than our Cinebench test. With another graphics-intensive benchmark, I ran Unigine Heaven. In this benchmark, we see similar results to our tests in Firestrike, which was only about a difference of 22%. A very similar result indeed. The scores here were 2015 for Chroma 1.2 and 2,597 for Chroma 2.0. The last two tests I ran were similar in nature, Handbrake and Adobe Media Encoder. These two programs are capable of converting video from one format to another, or in the case of Adobe Media Encoder, transcoding Adobe projects as well. For these two programs, I did a simple conversion of last week's episode and ran it on both programs for each of the two systems. Now, rendering and video editing were the two reasons I upgraded my rig in the first place, so we should see some favorable results. In the case of Handbrake, it took about 9 minutes and 15 seconds to convert last week's episode on the 1080p 30fps setting for Chroma 1.2, whereas it took roughly half that time at 4 minutes and 50 seconds for Chroma 2.0. We can see the same trend with Adobe Media Encoder, also pegged at the 1080p 30fps conversion, and it took Chroma 1.2 16 minutes and 45 seconds to encode, while Chroma 2.0 breezed on by at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So overall, there is a giant improvement between these two platforms. The Z170 platform, while still being a very good performing option for gamers, just doesn't cut it out for content creators hoping to work with 4K footage. As for gaming performance, it's only a small improvement between Z170 and Z270, as games aren't really optimized to use more than 2 cores of computing power, and systems are more reliant on graphics cards in order to boost render quality and frame rates. So in conclusion, I have clearly succeeded in upgrading my rig to better suit my needs as a gamer and a content creator. And I would like to end our video today with a short lighting demo featuring Trident Z's RGB RAM from g.skill. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you disliked it, dislike it. Get subscribed. Again, this one is Andrew with East Coast Tech, and I'll catch you in the next one.